about them Cowboys. It's the Cowboys Squad, sponsored by Game Time. Everything Dallas Cowboys every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from America's team the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Cowboys Squad Show, starting now.
Well, July 21st has arrived, and so have the Cowboys in Oxnard for the start of training camp. It is finally time, and we are ready to go. Welcome to another edition, but I think a special edition for sure of the Cowboys Squad Show. Tonight's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if and when your first $5 bet wins. We start with a welcome to the co-host of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast, Landon McCool, and our co-host for the in-season Cowboys postcasts, the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. Gentlemen, happy start of training campaign is finally here. Coming up on today's show, the very latest with the Cowboys, with everybody reporting today. They're going to take the field tomorrow. We've got the latest injury news, updates, great quotes, great storylines. Landon, you're going to be in Oxnard with the Cowboys next week. But the big news of the day, Micah Parsons is with the Cowboys today. He arrived.
More important than me being there in Oxnard, I would say, is that him showed up. Just a little bit more important. It was obviously this is what we expected, but it was good to see it through, despite whatever contract stuff is going on, and I'm sure we're going to get into that here in a bit. It's great to see him out there again, especially since he's talked so much about being a leader and kind of leading by example, and that he's putting his feet where his mouth are. So he's really kind of following through on that. So it's good to see. Fantastic that he's out there, and I can't wait to see exactly what he's doing early on. And I think that I go out next week when the pads are coming on the 27th. I think that first padded practice is probably another threshold that we'll be talking about on whether he gets stressed out, whether he's practicing that way. I think that those are going to be another set of kind of goals, or like I said, thresholds to see if he crosses that once we get there.
Yeah, it's good that he is there. He is a leader. He is the defensive leader. I mean, we know Lawrence is gone. I mean, the guys that were somewhat defensive veteran guys are no longer with the team, and so I do like seeing him out there. And I think it's just. Now it's time to get it done. And we saw Jerry kind of throw the first punch from a negotiating standpoint out there. And let's see how it goes. I'm really looking forward to this kind of getting behind us. I don't know that it will in the next week, but I'm looking for this contract to get signed, and let's move on to dealing with football and football issues instead of the monetary side of things and worrying about if a guy's going to be there in practice, or if certain guys are going to want to toe the line and basically say, hey, if I don't have this, I'm not going to put shoulder pads on.
Yeah, and that comes down to what we call now a hold in, right? Landon and you and Marcus did a whole episode on that. So it's like you're there, but you're not there completely. And I would think, too, to your point, Coach, and you, Landon, as well, considering Micah's status and the importance of his role on the team, I would think you'd want to try to get that done sooner rather than later.
I would have never believed that TJ Watt's deal would have had anything to do with Micah's deal. I really wouldn't, but I think it staggered me that I saw that he signed for 41, as I really thought that was kind of the number that Micah was, kind of that 40 to 42 was where Micah was. Well, it's not. And hey, the price of playing poker just went up, fellas. Yep. It's that simple.
Yeah, and it's kind of constantly going up, right? And so I I'm of two minds, right? I think it's either they kind of come together on this while probably in this next week, they now that they're in training camp, maybe this gets accelerated, maybe these decide to start talking a little bit more, or it very realistically could be a situation where Parsons is maybe waiting for some of these other deals to drop. There's still at least one more defensive end deal to happen. So it could be that he's going to wait for that number to come in to see if it's kind of pushes his number up a little bit. But I think I definitely still feel like there was a situation where the owner and the player sat down and kind of cobbled out a number, and then they started to get the agent involved, and suddenly the things kind of fell apart. So there is a possibility that now that the agent is here, that they're kind of back at square one, and maybe they are waiting for Aiden Hutchinson to sign his deal, and they're waiting to see how much that is. Though I got to imagine that, to me, I think the number I had in my brain was something like 44 or 45. So if that number still kind of comes in, I think that it actually kind of played out a little bit like we thought it would, but maybe just a couple deals coming in between now and then. I agree with you, Coach, because I didn't think that the TJ Watt deal would affect Micah necessarily, and I don't know that it necessarily has, but I was surprised by how high the TJ Watt number was. So if there is still amount of buffer that the player and the agent have, they're saying, well, TJ Watt's 30 years old and Micah's 25, you should be getting X amount more. So there is a chance that maybe that number has been bumped up even more because of, like you said, TJ Watt just getting. I didn't think that TJ Watt was going to get close to Micah, and maybe that's the bad sign, right? Is that TJ Watt isn't getting close to Micah, and he's still got $41 million, which means that Micah's still got some more cash to make before this deal is signed.
I'm thinking more along the lines of Hendrickson. That's the one that I want to look at. I want to see where he's at, because he's kind of that same Watt age. They're kind of in that same ballpark. I'm from the school that it is really going to be difficult right here. And I'm telling you, I think you heard it today when Jerry Jones stepped to the podium. It is going to be difficult for him to swallow again 40. Let's say it is 45, 34 and a 45 for Micah, 34 and a receiver, 60 and a quarterback. Padna, I'm telling you, if you didn't watch him step to the mic today and you didn't hear what he said, he laid the groundwork perfectly for what his expectations are.
All right.
Yeah, I think one note that I wrote, just kind of overall what I took away from Jerry and Steven from this press conference, and the note that I had for Jerry is it's worth the risk to wait. Like, he doesn't care about paying the extra money. He doesn't, yes, obviously there is something to the idea that the longer you wait, the more you pay. I don't think Jerry cares about that. I think for Jerry, it's worth the risk. Whether we agree with that or not, I think that's clearly where Jerry stands on that whole situation.
I don't think there's any question about that. At the end of the day, you're dealing with the guy who is not afraid to go over there and dig a hole in that ground. And if there's no oil, he's not afraid to go over there and dig another hole. And then he's not afraid to go over there and dig another. He's not afraid of the risk reward side of it. That doesn't scare him at all. But I'm also going to tell you, and I don't know when you guys want to discuss it, but at the end of the day, he laid out exactly what his expectations are without having to say it.
All right. Well, specifically with Micah, Jones said that he's not the least bit concerned about his contract, number one. He also had a kind of an interesting quote. He said, quote, "I have talked with people that have talked to him. Let's put it like that," even though they had their own meeting, as you alluded to earlier, Landon. So that was a little bit interesting. And then
Yeah, that was the agent that he was saying that
Yes.
he's talked to people that he's
Right.
talked to Maglada. Yeah.
Right. Which was interesting. And then at one point, he, I think, maybe raised some eyebrows a little bit when he said that, hey, he handles players and agents differently than everybody else does, which is true, which is kind of what you have said, Stretch. And then he made the quote, just because we sign him doesn't mean we're going to have him. Jones said to Parsons, he was hurt 4 games last year. Seriously, I remember signing a player for the highest paid position in the league, and he got knocked out 2/3 of the year, talking about Dak. So
yeah, real quick, can I clear something up on that? Because I see that being reported around, and actually what Jerry was responding to was a question that was made to Shoddy about what happens if Micah doesn't practice while going through this contract situation. And so I think that that's being interpreted as Jerry saying, like, oh, well, we sign a deal, he may not even show up or something like that. I don't think that's what Jerry was saying. I think what Jerry was saying is that stuff happens sometimes. Sometimes you sign these guys and that doesn't guarantee that you're going to get them the time. So I did feel like people were kind of suggesting that was being dismissive of Dak or Micah. But I mean, if you listen to the quote, like maybe even a paragraph later into the quote, Jerry says something, and this is not the exact quote, but something to the extent of Michael Parsons is the most well-knowledged, financial player that I've dealt with in these negotiations. Yeah. So, I mean, he was effusive with his praise. And really, let's talk about something else here real quick, is that I do feel like Jerry sometimes can get in his own way with this situation, because everyone kind of walked away from that situation feeling like Jerry was kind of admonishing Micah. And if anything, I think Stretch is correct. What I got from it, when you actually watch the video, is that Jerry is, I think, in a lot of ways praising the way Micah is handling it by showing up to practice and being part of the team, and is in contrast showing how Diggs did not do that and how that's problematic for how they feel and their expectations on what these guys should be doing when they get paid. So I think that Jerry actually kind of, unintentionally worked against his own messaging a little bit with that quote, because I think the point that Jerry was trying to get across was comparing and contrasting the way that Micah has handled this situation despite being in a contract year, and Trayvon handling his situation despite already being paid.
Now, I'm under the understanding, and unless I read this wrong, that Jerry said Micah missed 6 games last year, when in fact he
did say
missed
something
4.
Like that. Yeah,
right.
He did say that. Yeah,
right. So he said, hey, he missed 6 games. Do you think Jerry Jones doesn't know how many games he missed? He knows.
I think.
No, he knows. Let me help you out. Let me help you out right now. He knows. This is a start of the negotiation. He knows. He knows exactly how many games he missed. Hey, I'm going to put out there. I'm going to put out there that this perch we caught is in fact it's a bass. It's a pretty big bass. So I'm going to say 6 when I know it was 4. It's all in the art of negotiating. I'm telling you, Jerry Jones is a master negotiator. I'm just telling you, fellas. You can talk about how old he is. We can say a lot of different things. I will tell you right now, he knows exactly what he's doing in this situation. I'm telling you.
I don't disagree.
That's very we'll see what happens. We'll stay tuned for that. So that was kind of the Micah part of it. Like you said, though, I mean, the good news is he's there, and this always seems to be, as we've talked about for months now, this seems to be the time when the Cowboys like to do it, when they get it done. And so we'll wait. It will happen. It will get done, and it'll be taken care of. It'll be good. And hopefully there'll be some room, some leftovers for everybody else.
That'll be the question.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I'll tell you what, let's take our first time out. We've got some real legit injury news. We were wondering, what was that going to look like? What was the PUP list going to look like? How was that? And right out of the gate, we have some news. So we're going to get into that when we come back. Also, Dak Prescott, speaking of injuries and coming back, he has spoken as well. So we got a lot to get to. We are just getting started. Great opening segment. Got a lot of people on board. Thank you for watching us live. If you want to jump in and comment via the comment crew, we love it. Stephen White, he's ready to go. He's jumping in. Great to hear from you guys. We'll get to your comments coming up as well. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. All right. Well, as you know, summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Now, whether you're placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes you feel like you are a part of the action. So right now, if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, we are back. The Cowboys Squad Show on a Monday night. Cowboys training camp has arrived. The players reporting today in Oxnard. They will take the field tomorrow. Can't wait. That is the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, along with the co-host of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast, Landon McCool. Will tell you what's going on with them and what they're doing. Got to get the latest on the TikTok push as well, and find out if Coach actually joined TikTok. Stay tuned for that. We'll get into that later on. All right, so we're talking about the injuries, and we were wondering, and to your point, Coach, Jerry Jones also said that the Cowboys want a lot more. He said a lot more from Trayvon Diggs this season. Diggs, linebacker DeMarvion Overshown, and cornerback Josh Butler, all on the PUP list. And then rookie corner Javon Revell is on the non-football injury list. They can all come back at any point during training camp, but that's where they are starting. And the other shoe that dropped was that the Cowboys did confirm that they docked Trayvon Diggs that $500,000 because he did not report and train at the Cowboys facility at the Star. He stayed and did his rehab in South Florida, and Jerry Jones was clear. I mean, hey, that's in the contract, and it would be really set a bad precedent if that's in the contract and they didn't honor it.
Yeah, I mean, with the de-escalator stuff, I mean, this is just an unforced error on Trayvon's part. I mean, look, I'm a pro player on a lot of the stuff. But I think like this is very straightforward, and he just if he didn't do it on purpose, then he made just a huge mistake. So I don't really know what to say about the de-escalator stuff. It's and even to call it a dock and pay is probably not like fair to the Cowboys, because it's it's simply like a deal that he signed and he agreed to, and so. So I'm not really sure, like, what if that was something. I mean, I have to believe that he knew this, like I have zero doubts that he must have known this well before this was happening. So I have to think that this was a conscious decision. In my opinion, I have to think that he's got an agent that would give him the heads up on this kind of thing and make him informed. And look, that whether he makes the, he made the choice, maybe he felt it was worth that money to feel more comfortable about where he was training and getting healthier. I think that Britt Brown's one of the best in the business. The Cowboys recovery staff is maybe the best in football. So I don't really know, where he's getting that from, but maybe he's talked to other players and maybe he has his own opinion there and he's allowed to have that. But I certainly don't think the Cowboys should be kind of put on blast for that. Cause I mean, this is something that it's boggling to the mind, but it's something that Diggs did either by mistake or by intention.
Yeah. He came back and declared himself. I think he felt like he was ready to go when he came back after being in South Florida, wherever he was, that he happened to be doing that rehab work. And when he got back, I can tell you that from the sound of it and from the looks of it, I'm sure Britt Brown and that staff evaluated him and said, we don't think he's where he needs to be. And with that being in his contract, it's why they call it pro football. I mean, if you're a man, and if you decide to make that decision, and that's your risk reward for what you think is best for you or how you think your rehab should go, you go down there and do what you need to do. And then when it doesn't get to the level that the team thinks it needs to be at, get your $500,000 fine. I mean, what are you going to say to that? I mean, that's. You're a big boy and you took the risk reward, and that's just, to me, that's how it goes. But explain to me, if he's already, I don't know enough about these rules. If he's already put on the pup, he can come off of the pup until week 1 of the season, and then week 1 of the season he can't come off of the pup until week 4. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the deal is that when you're on training camp pup, you can come off it at any time, and that also makes you eligible to be put onto the regular season pup. And if you get put on the regular season pup, you can't come off of it for at least 4 weeks, right? I think they changed that from.
Well, I got it's 20. Is it 21 days, right? You got to give them 21 days.
There's a 21-day window, that you get once you take them off pup to decide whether or not you want to revert them back to regular season.
So they could technically not put him on the regular season pup list, but
yes, that's often what happens. Is everyone's trying to avoid a regular season pup, because it just gives you
miss 4 games.
Yeah, you have to. But at the same time, like if you feel like he could come back week 3, but we want to give him a week anyways, like they may just let him stay on pup because of the roster options that it gives you, right? Like it does kind of free up some space. So if you want to like help somebody get through that initial cut down before week 1, it may be that you decide to keep him on pup because at the end of the day, he isn't playing week 3 or week 4 because he still needs like to work himself back into, playing shape or whatever. You may end up keeping him there. So I think it's interesting that, I don't think that there's really any case that he was not going to be on pup, right? Like on training camp pup. Like I think there was just no way that he was coming back, well enough for that to be the case. If he said otherwise, I mean, that's clearly a mistake on his part. But yeah, I think what this does now is it kind of sets up the race to see how many of these guys end up on regular season pup. And to me, I think it's likely that it's both Diggs and Overshown. And I think that you're hoping that Revel can get himself back into a situation where it's a close call as we get closer to week 1.
Well, and also it has to deal with roster numbers, correct? I mean, like if you put the guys to the pup, then they brought 3 or 4 guys in to work out today, I believe, out there. So it's all about jockeying roster numbers and roster spots and how you want to get through joint practices and early preseason games.
Yeah, and if you notice, like they're bringing in defensive ends, right? And I think that the reason that they're doing that is we just talked about, right? We don't know exactly what Micah's level of participation is. And even then, you don't want to overwork Micah anyways. So you can't count on him eating up a bunch of training camp snaps. You've got Sam Williams coming off of an ACL injury. You don't want to just throw him into a bunch of training camp practice, like a whole bunch of training camp practice snaps, because you want to kind of ease him in to make sure he's healthy. So I think with those two guys, and then obviously Dante Fowler, who is a
veteran guy who doesn't need a lot of practice.
Exactly. And not only that, not only need, but you don't want him to like, you don't want to overexpose a guy like that, because that's ultimately the problem I think people forget about. You have to facilitate practice, and you have to facilitate practice.
Well, that's the key. That's the key. That's the key. You're trying to get offensive tackles work. You're trying to get work against, sound, good, solid defensive ends without putting your starters out there, because, one-on-one work, you can get hurt in going full speed one-on-one work. So, yeah, you're trying to facilitate and help your football team get better, and it may not, in fact, at all have to do with defensive end. It may be, in fact, having to do with getting your offensive line better, so you up your numbers on the defensive line so that those guys have guys to practice against.
Yeah, because that's the thing, is you're trying to serve a couple different masters here, right? You're trying to make sure that your offensive players are getting good work during training camp. You're trying to make sure that your defensive players don't get overworked or rush back into practice when they're not ready to play. And then I think that there's another element of this too, where when you're looking at these guys, you want them to be useful players. So maybe what you're also looking for is a guy who has some special teams experience, that, okay, maybe once training camp is done, I let sneak you onto the practice squad, and you could be a guy that I call up during the season to maybe not even play defensive end, but run down on special teams in a couple of different areas, and he just becomes a useful guy that you could has been in your system all season, that you can call up when you need him, just a familiar face. And if you actually need it, like heaven forbid you have a bunch of defensive end injuries like you did last season, at least maybe you've got a guy that you put out there who knows your system. You're not just pulling a guy off the street. You at least know what you've got.
All right. So let me ask you this, and then we'll move on. Two things. Number one, I like, Landon, I think you hit it correctly. Rather than looking at it like he was docked, I think the better way to look at it is that part of his deal is, hey, we'll give you $500,000 if you come here and rehab. It's yours. Here it is. If you want it, you can have it. But if you don't, you're not going to get it. Just to crystallize that, right? There's something called not likely to be earned incentives, right? And they're just contract devices where they put in the contract incentives that are unreasonable, right? Or they're not likely to be earned. This is not that. Like, this, literally all he had to do was show up to a certain percentage of all season workouts, and he could have received this money. Again, either he didn't know, which is very unlikely with a professional agent, a professional player, that he was not told or informed of this deal, or he made a conscious decision to not earn that $500,000, which I think, to me, is the more likely situation. And
look, help me out. I don't think this was structured as a bonus, was it?
Well, it's technically not a bonus, but
no. But I'm saying this is a guy that's been hurt before. Was this not a clause in his contract that, hey, if this happens to rear its head again, you have an obligation to, whatever percentage of the time is, do the rehab at the Star with the Cowboys rehab guys?
I could be wrong, but I don't think this was tied specifically to rehab as much as percentage of off-season workouts that he attended, if I'm not mistaken. I could haven't looked into the detail.
Whatever the term. We can play with the verbiage, but
I'm saying, like, if he hadn't been injured and then he'd still not shown up, I think this still would have been a de-escalator in his contract. I just wanted to clear that point up.
Okay. And I don't want to bury the lead, but what do you guys make, in all seriousness, of Jerry's comment saying, hey, we want more, a lot more from Trayvon Diggs? That's pretty straightforward. You don't hear that very often in this day and age of coddling and praise.
to Stretch's point, like I think that's exactly what Jerry was talking about today. Like I think that's the focus, is that they clearly feel like his lack of working out around the Cowboys is not only what maybe caused the re-injury in his situation this last year, but also maybe is causing another delay in his recovery this year. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if, like, the truth is that, like, I think that they don't like that, and that's their prerogative. I don't know that if he had gone in with Britt Brown, that, like, he wouldn't have ended up on PUP or anything like that. But I don't not know that either. So I just think that I just know that they were not happy with the way that he handled it, and they would prefer that he do his rehab, in front of their guys who they really trust.
All right. We will take our second timeout, and when we come back, Dak has spoken as well, and we have some other Cowboys quarterback news that I think is interesting. We'll share that with you. We'll get to your comments coming up as well. But Cowboys training camp has arrived. The players have arrived, and they will take the field tomorrow. Football is back. Cowboys football is back for real. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. All right. Well, workplace stress, as you know, is at an all-time high. 61% of the global workforce is reporting higher than normal stress levels. The summer is the perfect time to take small steps to focus on your wellness and manage the challenges that come with your workday. Of course, most of us can't just quit our jobs or take endless vacations, but we can start small, whether it's getting outside for a few minutes, adding movement into your day, or talking to someone who can help you navigate life's challenges. That's where BetterHelp comes in. Now, the flexibility of online therapy really makes it easy to fit sessions into a busy schedule, no matter where you are. So as the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Unwind from work with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Okay, we are back. The Cowboys Squad Show. That is Landon McCool, the co-host of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast, along with the coach, former Cowboys coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. All right, well, with the start of training camp comes the annual painful reminder, unfortunately, of the Cowboys' 30-year Super Bowl drought. Coach, you were there the last time. Dak Prescott entering his 10th season. He spoke with Clarence Hill and said that nobody is more disappointed with the Cowboys' playoff results than he is. And then on the flip side, Tyler Smith says he views the Cowboys as Super Bowl champs. So a couple of nice comments there. And the other note I was going to say is, sounds like the Cowboys have already made the decision that Dak is not going to play during the preseason, which is not a surprise. That's what they always do. But that means a lot of reps for Joe Milton and Will Grier.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, Will Grier doesn't need any reps, I don't think. I mean, he's going to probably need them to get ready, but I'm not super interested in them. And I like Will Grier. It's fine. But I mean, I think we know what Will Grier is. But Joe Milton's a different story. I mean, Joe Milton does need a lot of these reps, and we were hoping to see him get a lot of these reps. He's a young player. What we've seen of him so far in the NFL, and look, I understand it was a kind of throwaway week 18 or week 17 game for the Patriots, in which he played really, really well. But I would say that probably has more value than any preseason game that we've ever seen. So I think we need to see more there, right? I think that there's a lot of talent, physical talent, but we need to see him execute in, snap out. And the only way to do that is to kind of continue to put him out there in the preseason. And with Dak, now that they do these, shared practices with teams, that becomes more of the testing ground for the starters. It seems like, and it makes some sense, right? Because every team has dealt with a situation. I mean, look, none other than how Dak got his job, right? With dealing with a preseason injury to a starter, right? To be able to have these practices in a little bit more controlled environment where they're able to dictate the terms of tackling, dictate the terms of how the different aspects of practice are going. So it's not just a game. They can actually work on specific stuff while actually getting work with another team and not just their own players. I think teams are turning to those situations as an alternative to what we would traditionally think of a third week preseason or fourth week. Well, not fourth week preseason, but usually a third week preseason game where you go in there, you have your starters play a half, and then you get them out of there. I think they're finding these kind of joint practices to be a lot more conducive to getting the work they need at the speed they want without overexposing their, especially their veteran players to injury.
Yeah, I like what you say. They control practice, right? It's a quicker whistle. Hey, we control the down and distance. We know if we want to go in the red zone and throw 7-on-7 here. We know if we want to do, some nickels, some short yardage things, we can do that. And yet we can still have the quick whistle. We can still make sure, we're talking to guys about, hey, we're not taking guys to the ground here. We're going to thud it up. All the things that come with that. Now, I'm going to tell you that, it's hard to do because – inevitably, you got somebody on that other team. And guess what? He's trying to make that football team. And how he's trying to make that football team is he's going to go 100 miles an hour. And, if he falls or he trips a certain way, it's a really, really sticky deal. But it is good. We talked about this in the first segment. How Dallas was trying to bring defensive ends to go against, really to service the offensive side of the football. It's good when you get other guys in there, and then you can service with somebody that's wearing a different helmet than the one you have on. So, you're right there. That'll be as close as he'll get to, real speed reps. And then, then you start worrying, well, how long has he been out and how long has it been since he's seen, a full speed rep because of when he went out last year. So, it's a give and take, and you got to hope that he gets enough of those reps in those joint practice situations that he can get himself up to speed.
Let me ask you this, Coach. Can you talk to us a little bit about why it's important for these guys to see players other than just the guys on their team, and just talk about how, even in training camp, these guys are starting to pick up on cues and that sort of thing, and even scouting these guys a little bit?
Oh, there's no question. If you think that you're not going in the meeting room and against the guys you've been going against, if you think, for instance, the offensive line coach is not talking about, let's say he's going against an outside, a guy on the outside edge of his eye as a tackle, is okay. He's a 5 technique, and okay, boy, look how heavy he is on his hand. Look how he's got that front, his front foot is there. You're once you see it over and over and over, hey, you're kind of getting used to what his moves are. Well, the defensive side's doing the same thing, right? Hey, look how he's sitting back right here. You think this is not you think he's not going to quick set you? You think he's not going to? So absolutely, you're coaching your guys to help them to be successful in every situation in order to try to make the football team. And I don't care if that's a practice against your own guys or if it's, against somebody else. You want to see your players have success. That's a direct reflection of how you're coaching them. If you're not getting them coached up, then guess what? You're not doing your job. And then it's a quality control issue. Am I making sure my players have everything that they want to do to go out and be successful in those situations?
And I think part of the issue too is that, it can actually lead to misevaluation if you're only evaluating against guys that have been going against each other all summer, because you're not going to get that wealth of knowledge against your opponent each week. You get 1 week to work on that opponent. And so I think that there is some part of it that you need to be making sure, like, hey, is this guy doing well because he's figured out all our corners after 5 weeks? Let's put him against someone he doesn't know and see if he's still producing at that same level. I think it just helps triangulate where, especially some of these younger players are, and are they, kind of, not cheating the system, because this is stuff that you want to train them to do. You want to train these guys to learn how to evaluate their opponent, how to break them down, and how to beat them. But you also aren't going to get the opportunity to do so over a series of 4 weeks. It's got to be Tuesday, Wednesday practice when we break it down. Thursday, we're working on 2-minute. Friday, we're doing a walkthrough. So you've got to be able to see if these guys are really doing as well as it seems they are, or is it a situation where they're just over studious and taking advantage of extra edges that they may not get in the regular season.
You talk about the evaluation side of it. I mean, I also think it's important as a coach. Yeah, you want to evaluate what they're doing in practice or how they're stepping or what. But at the end of the day, the evaluation better count a lot more in situations where they're going against somebody else, especially in the preseason. That to me is the ultimate gauge. How do they play in that environment? And that's why it is so hard. It is hard to gauge guys. It really is hard to gauge them, because late in games, you're wanting to see something in a guy, and he may be going against somebody that's not very good, and you're wanting to see the good in him, and those things. So that's why I've always thought it's important to let the pro scouts, evaluate them, listen to what they have, allow them to have a voice in the room, and make a sound decision, because we have all seen guys who get cut and go other places and are, end up being really successful. So the evaluation side of it is a really big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because you see these guys do well for so long, and then suddenly it's preseason game time or it's regular season game, and poof, they turn back into pumpkins, right? So we always talk about on the show there's a Sigmund Bloomism, which is the drumbeat, right? Like, we want to see the same guys doing well every single day, or regularly hearing positive reports about players. And then once it becomes levels, right? There's the early part of training camp, and then we get into the preseason games or in these joint practices, and that's another level. Or do they continue that drumbeat through that level? And then you want to see them continuing to play well consistently, making plays throughout all the way up into regular season, because what you see more often than not is that they do it 3/4 of the way, and that all these receivers that all of us can name that have been wide receiver darlings in these training camps that that have done all these things. The guy that I keep hassling Marcus about is John Vea Johnson, right? It's just like these guys who we just love in August or in July rather, and then suddenly we get into the little bit later in August, we like them a little bit less,
and they disappear.
Then they disappear, right? And then suddenly
I'm sorry, that's the other thing though. I mean, think about if you're a young corner on this team, and I haven't studied the roster that well, but a free agent corner. Hey, who do you want to get yourself in going in a one-on-one against? You want to get yourself against CD. You want to get yourself against Pickens. You want to get yourself against Turpin, because guess what? You want to make the coach's eyes open by saying, boy, look at his technique here, or look at what he's doing, or look at how he's pedaling, look at how he's opening his hips, look at his hand position. I mean, all those things are important. It's also important when we do these shows that you don't say it flew by, because you're standing over scratching your butt while we're talking, Jeff Biggs.
I have a question. I'm just waiting. Waiting for my turn, man. I'm a team player, right?
Let's get it.
So let's assume that's the deal, that Dak is not going to play at all in the preseason. My question to both of you, but Coach, from a evaluation standpoint, we have talked about how important it is for this offense to not only come together, but to get off to a good start, right? They don't want to be stuck in the mud coming out of the gate. They can't afford to fall into an 0-4 hole, and they want to get off to a good start. Can you do that, Coach? Can you do that without playing in games and without, can you get your offense ready to go week one, just with some joint practices and going up against your team?
I wonder, and it really is. This is the reason I don't go to training camp, because I think it's one of those things that's overrated. I mean, it's like you can't go in the meeting, you can't hear what's being taught. I'd like to know first how much carryover from Mike McCarthy's offense to what Brian Schottenheimer has. How much carryover is there? Is it 50%? Is it 60%? How much is there really? Is he moving from what Mike McCarthy did? How much is he changing the verbiage? Is he changing route depths? Is he, for instance, a lot of guys come back, with 17 back to 14. Some guys like to pivot out of it, 12 back to 10. Some guys like to, and there's all kinds of different little variables with it. So I'd like to know how much of that there is, and you're not going to know just, sitting out there watching it. You're going to have to study a game, and you're going to have to put what you saw in that game to what you previously saw with how Mike McCarthy installed and what he did in his offense. And then you say, well, he came in and says, hey, we're going to run the football more. We're going to major. Now, let's talk about personnel groupings. How much different or how many different times is he going to use to say, 12 personnel? How many times is he going to put two backs in the backfield? How many times are you going to see all that? And then you'll be able to start by week 3 to start to develop some idea of and that's one side of the football. Then you have the other side of the football, right? You have what Zimmer did last year, and Eberflus is not going to do what Zimmer did, but I know for a fact that, Mike was trying to incorporate some of the things that Dan Quinn did. And, with him only being here a year, I guarantee if you asked Coach Zimmer, he probably would have wished he would have put more of his things in earlier in the situation. And so it really is. It's a balance deal, and how you install and what you install and the period of time that you install it, I think it's all critical to what, eventually is going to be seen in that first game against Philadelphia.
Yeah. And just to kind of quickly get into this, I think, having said all the things that we just said about joint practices and about the control of it and how you don't want to expose your veteran, and Dak is obviously coming off an injury, I kind of wish that there was an opportunity for Dak to safely play a preseason game, at least maybe a series or two, simply because of the fact that he's been hurt. He missed the last part of the season, and week 1 is against the Super Bowl champs. I just, because of that, to me, it's not just that. It's that I feel like he needs the joint practice and maybe a drive or two in a preseason game. However, I will say this, like we just described, preseason games aren't what they used to be. So I also don't want to throw Dak out there if the other team isn't playing, some of their starters, or, something that's worth Dak, going out there and risking it. Right. So it's a delicate balance. What I wish is not necessarily what's available. So I think, playing it safe and playing him in a joint practice is probably the best of all available options at this point.
All right. Good stuff there. When we come back, our final segment. Yeah, went by fast, Coach. I'm telling you, goes by fast. It means it's a good show.
Yeah, you go to your church and I'll go to mine. I hear you.
Speaking of head coach Brian Schottenheimer, he spoke out today as well. I thought had some very, very solid quotes. We'll get you some of that as well. We'll get some final thoughts and try to get to some of your comments as well. This is the Cowboys Squad Show with the Cowboys training camp now underway. Well, guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under the tongue and kicks in fast. On average, in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. You can even read real customer reviews on their site. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's Rugiet.com, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Okay, we are back. The Cowboys Squad Show. The coach Glenn Stretch Smith and Landon McCool. The Cowboys training camp is arrived. Players reporting today. They will take the field tomorrow. And Landon, give us a little tease, a little preview. So obviously, training camp every day, tons of storylines, all kinds of news every single day. But how do you and Marcus? How do you guys map it out? Do you just take it one day at a time? Do you certain things you're looking for?
I think early on, you just get ready for the fire hose to turn on. It's like, because we go from, trying to find morsels of information out of nothing to all the news that you could possibly want to hear about the Cowboys all at once, right? And so I think, when you start out early, and especially before they're in pads, it's about kind of really just getting a sense of seeing if you can notice anything different in how they're lining up. What are they installing, right? How does it look different? How do the players physically look? Like, you're not going to get a great sense of how they're, tackling or how the run game is going to go or how they're moving bodies, but you can at least get a sense of their physicality and how they've changed their bodies in the offseason. Try to get some early glimpses. Who's on what injured list? We've already talked about a little bit of that, but I imagine that we might get a little bit more once, practices starts out. There may be one or two guys who are, dealing with some small stuff early on. So those are things to kind of keep an eye on. And then as we get a little bit closer, things will get a little bit more advanced. They'll start installing a little bit more. You can kind of get a sense of who's got the early, inside track on certain jobs. It certainly isn't anything to write in stone, especially this early, but you can at least tell maybe who made the biggest impression in the mini camps and OTAs by where they are early in training camp. And then once the pads come on, that's really when you can start to kind of do some real evaluation, because that's actual football. And even that is still not actual football. It's thudding up. It's, but I think you can get a better sense of how guys are moving, how guys are getting to where they need to be. Are they arriving with violence? I think it won't be until we start getting real full go stuff, where bodies are potentially, going on the ground, bodies are moving. They're not, refs aren't swallowing their whistle as much. That's when you can start evaluating the true nature of the run game, these running backs and the defense that's trying to stop them.
Yeah, early, I don't want to see a lot of mental bust. That's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see a guy go in motion offensively, them check the coverage, leave somebody scot-free running through the middle of the defense. You don't want to see around. You don't want to see an offensive lineman. Okay, they check the protection. Okay, we go back the other way. Okay, he misses a guy. They go the wrong way. The back goes the wrong way. You want to see very few mental errors. You want to see what looks like sharp, crisp, fast football. You want to see guys moving around and not – I don't want a group of players that has to think. I want a group of players that reacts, that understands what we're doing offensively, that knows that if we're running inside zone, hey, I'm uncovered, I've got to take the correct steps to get to the second level. All the things that you have installed through OTAs and minicamp, you want to see that transition out there with very, very few mental mistakes.
Yeah, competitive, right? Like that's when it's competitive, when it's tight, when the passes are being contested, when the guys just getting the throw off just in time. That's what we want to see, not a 50-yard touchdown because the defensive backs are all looking around at each other about who was playing what coverage on the back end. So I think that's the kind of football that coach is talking about, and that's what you hope to see, where it's all happening really quickly. It's all happening, where everything's being contested at the end, and it's close. There's kind of a tendency for the defense to be a little bit ahead of the offense early in these practices. But who knows if that's the case, especially with two new coordinators. It could be that there's one side is naturally ahead of each other, but you want to see that start to even out by the end of the first week, and you want to just see things close. You want to see things be difficult to do, but not difficult in the sense that you're taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back because of a mental penalty, a pre-snap penalty, or a guy that is in the wrong spot because he didn't know what his assignment was. That's what mini camps and OTAs are for. They're supposed to be getting that stuff out early, so they're not doing that in these training camp practices.
All right. Well, eventually the play will do all the talking, right? When
Absolutely.
all is said and done. But in the meantime, a lot of great quotes. How about new head coach Brian Schottenheimer just stopping short of guaranteeing that the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl, which is, that's what you want. But he had a couple of good ones. He said, "The hunger I have now is for the young men in that locker room. It's for the Joneses. When we get a Super Bowl, my dad will get a ring. I promise you that. We're going to win, and when we win, our coaching staff is going to get raided. People are going to come after our coaches because we are going to win." So,
I love that kind of confidence. Yeah. Love it. You got to have that kind of belief. You got to see it to believe it, or believe it to see it. So, you got to start. It starts with believing that you can do it, and then going from there. We'll see.
Yeah, and I think just continuing to hammer that message and keep it positive and push that until they get to where they want to be, until they can see what they've got. And I know every training camp is important for every team, but it feels like there's a lot of things that I think we're all excited and looking forward to seeing come together. All the different position battles and.
It's different than last year, right? It feels a lot different than it did last year. There's an energy and an excitement around the team that was more stale than last year. So who knows if that actually translates to anything, but we'll see.
I think the sense of urgency for Jerry Jones and what Jerry Jones is doing and the amount of investment that he is making is now. And if he doesn't see it, we're gonna have a lot to get on here and talk about.
That's for sure.
Yeah, we didn't even mention, Coach. We didn't even mention those crazy Nick Saban rumors during our last show, because we got so busy. We had Danny White on.
What's his rumor that he's going to go back to LSU? If Brian Kelly didn't get it done this year.
He's coming here, buddy. Haven't you? No, he's going to be.
You've already got the real estate agents already looking for the house. Yeah, I got a guy. Yeah.
Well, when last week that was the big rumor at SEC Media Days that Saban was going to come back, and it was actually, Coach, you were the one that said, "Hey, I don't think he's going to go to college again. I think he's going to go to the NFL." And then once again, people started connecting the dots and they started playing pick that team. And all of a sudden, Colin Cowherd, I think it was, went off again and said, if Schottenheimer doesn't do well, that Saban will come here. So, and a lot of people are running with that.
Anytime you want the clicks, you just mention the Cowboys. You'll get them. That's for sure.
I already said it earlier. You go to your church and I'll go to mine. I'll say it again. You want me to hit the trifecta with it? I'll say it one more time.
One more time.
All right. Well, guys, that's where we are on the eve of training camp. So The guys will be on the field tomorrow, and we'll be ready to go, and we'll be back with you on Thursday. Any final thoughts, Landon? What do you guys got coming up tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be talking about everything in the press conference and kind of going over things and see exactly, what the rest of the week is going to hold for the rest of the week's shows. But I think it's going to be a lot of what we talked about, kind of evaluating where these guys look, what the injury situation is, how they're lining up, and then kind of just biding our time until the pads get strapped on and we can get some real evaluating done.
My hope is that, injuries are limited. I mean, I hope it's very limited that we don't have a lot of hamstrings, don't have a lot of quads, don't get into a lot of, feet stepping on feet. I mean, that's the thing early in training camp. You want to try to do your best to stay. You want to practice fast and you want to practice with all this high energy and all that, but you want to stay healthy too. And that's the whole thing. And, anytime you have a group of young guys, who've come in from all different levels and different schools, there's something to knowing how to practice, practice in the National Football League, and how do you practice. And so your hopes are that you don't get anybody, dinged or hurt this early in camp, and injuries are going to happen. It's a collision game and it's a fast game, but you don't want the ones that were just, oh God, you don't want any of that. Because I think it's so imperative that guys understand how to practice and especially take care of one another. We're on the same team here. We want to go out and we want to go fast and we want to do all these things, but we are on the same team, and you got to go out and take care of one another. That's the most important thing.
I could just hear Coach screaming, "Stay off the ground!" Like right now.
About 9,000 times. Get off the ground. Don't get on the ground.
Yeah. No more injuries. Enough injuries, enough bad news. We need some good news. We need some positive, and we need more teamwork. I think if there was more teamwork in the world would be a better place. All right. Until Thursday, we're going to leave it at that. Don't forget, check out Landon McCool and Marcus Mosher with the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast. They'll be back with you tomorrow. And then we will be joined by Marcus on Thursday, myself and the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. Again, big time thanks to everybody for watching and being a part of the show. We appreciate it very much. And we'll talk to you again on Thursday. Enjoy the start of Cowboys training camp. This is what we've been waiting for. Next up, the preseason games. And then before you know it, game 1 against the Eagles. Can't wait. Have a great night. We'll see you on Thursday. This has been the Cowboys Squad Show.